We'll give everyone a couple minutes to join because I know we're supposed to have quite a few people on tonight. Well, Tanya, it might just be you. I got a message earlier saying that there's quite a few people planning to hop on tonight. Oh, there we go. We have another adding. Awesome. All right, we'll give everyone a couple more minutes just to see who else hops on, and then we'll get started. Awesome. All right. Well, now that we have a few of you, we'll go ahead and get started. I cannot. Are they trying to add in? Oops. She might have the wrong meeting. I don't see. Have her try to log in again because I didn't see anyone try to add. Perfect. While we do that, I'm going to go ahead and get my screen shared. Can everyone see that screen? If you can see the PowerPoint, can you guys give me a thumbs up or let me know in the chat? Was anyone allowed to see it, the implement where you can see the guide or the PowerPoint? Let me. Perfect. Okay. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and get started, and Tanya, if she adds in, it alerts me and I can let her in. Um, Not sure. Hopefully she got the right link. Huh. Can you, let's see. It will just alert me when she adds in. Let me see. Try sending her this. All right, well, while we get that figured out, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So, thanks everyone for being here tonight. I'm Nicole, the dietitian at GC Healthy Living. Just pulling up my notes really quick. Um, and I want to start out, we're going to use the chat during this meeting a lot. So have that open or feel free to speak if you can. But I want to get started with a question about, has anyone been dealing with or previously dealt with any aches, brain fog, or just not feeling yourself overall? So if you felt like that, either give a thumbs up, put a yes in the comment section, or let us know. All right, so we have a couple thumbs ups. So it's crucial when our body is telling us this. So when we're having some aches, when we're having brain fog, when we're having some of these things, to tune into that message. We don't want to just ignore it. These symptoms aren't just passing annoyances. They're our body's way of saying, hey, something's not right. So you should listen up and take action because your body's speaking up for a reason. What studies have revealed is the main cause to all this trouble is inflammation. Lots of brain fog. Oh, let me add some people in. Wonderful. Okay. Yeah, brain fog can really, and it can almost be debilitating when we have this stuff. So we need to look at what's going on, what are our triggers, what's happening, and how can we adjust that. So we don't want to just let it be passive. And don't worry, we're not hopeless in this fight. So we're gonna work together to uncover some triggers of our inflammation and arm ourselves with some effective tools to combat it together so that we can seize control of our health and revitalize our vitality. All right. So, as many of you know, we are partnered with Healthy Steps Nutrition, and this is a framework that we use that's guided, tested, and proven. And we believe that something as fundamental as nutrition shouldn't be complicated, which is why we focus on our simple habit-based approach. But we know that helping you become your best and healthiest version of yourself isn't just about what you eat or going to the gym for a couple hours. It's about the whole process. So making sure that we are focusing on our nutrition, our stress management, our sleep, exercise, support system, and lifestyle as a whole to really balance out everything. All right, so let's dive in. So, what exactly is inflammation? So, inflammation, in simple terms, is your body's response to injury or infection. Inflammation isn't just your body's way of reacting, it's a very complex response to different triggers, and knowing how this works is key to staying healthy. In fact, many diseases, especially chronic diseases, reflect in an underlying inflammatory process. And no worries, Tanya, if we can't figure that out, we can always send the recording after this. So, some examples of some of these chronic diseases where there's inflammation at play are obesity, heart disease, diabetes, hypertension, metabolic syndrome, and certain type of cancers, to name a few of those. While ongoing research continues to explore the topic, studies have already revealed a clear connection between certain dietary factors and inflammation in the body. So I'm going to pause here and I want you to think and comment in the chat box. What do you think are some of these dietary factors that contribute to inflammation? Does anyone want to shoot out an answer as to what they think might be some of the dietary factors that are causing inflammation in our body and leading to some of these chronic diseases? Salt, sugar, okay. Too much sugar, processed foods, lack of water. These are all fantastic answers. So, yeah, dietary factors involve consuming excessive calories from ultra processed foods, foods that are high in saturated fat, trans fats, salt, sugar. So, some of those things that you guys listed. And when I say ultra processed, do you guys know what that means? Because sometimes we hear processed foods and just cutting your fruit can be a level of processing, but we want to be mindful of ultra processed foods. So when I say ultra processed foods, can you guys throw out a couple that might be an ultra processed food? So fried foods, broken down from the original form, boxed sweets, potato chips. Yeah, so we're thinking things like even deli meats. So deli meats, pepperoni, sausage, hot dogs, and packaged foods like the cereals, the potato chips, um, and I would say some cereals because there are some good cereals out there, but like you're thinking microwavable meals, cakes, and some desserts. So those are going to name a few of our highly processed foods. And additionally, highly refined carbohydrates found in these foods can actually initiate inflammation in the gut, which in turn impacts our gut health, which, if you've been to some of our talks before, you know how important gut health is. And a variety of factors, and not including food, can affect our gut health. So that's can also be from excessive alcohol consumption, from smoking, lack of sleep, overtraining, ongoing stress. So all of these things can impact how our body's functioning. And it's safe to say that our lifestyle and food choices play a significant role in either promoting or reducing inflammation in the body. So now we're going to define overtraining. Yeah, a lot of people don't think about overtraining as a cause of inflammation, but you can actually really damage your body if we train too hard and don't let it recover. So we're going to go ahead and dive in and talk about the types of inflammation in the body. So there's two main types. There's acute inflammation, which is short-term and actually aids in healing. And then there's chronic inflammation, which persists over time and can be harmful. So, how do you know if you're dealing with chronic inflammation? There's a couple signs and symptoms that we can look out for. So you thinking widespread body pain, achiness in multiple joints, swelling, heat in our muscles, or feeling sore to the touch. Those are some big signs that we're a little bit or a lot of bit inflamed. Some other indicators of high inflammation levels may be trouble sleeping, digestive issues, depression, anxiety, and that brain fog that we talked about earlier. So we, a couple of you said that you've felt brain fog before. So when you're thinking about this brain fog, it might not be as clear as some of us think, or we might not be tuned into it as much because it can be a bunch of these different signs leading to that. So, trouble sleeping. If you're unable to fall asleep due to a restless mind, wandering, or unable to sleep without waking up through the night, and if you do wake up having a hard time falling back asleep, that can be inflammation. Headaches, constant aches, or frequent occurring headaches, fatigue and low energy, needing to drink energy drinks, coffee, and naps just to get through the day, and hitting the afternoon slump is a normal for you. Irritability, mood swings, losing your temper easily, sometimes crying if we like easily before we can deal with the situation, memory loss, unable to recall words that should be easily accessible in your vocabulary or something that happened last week, trouble concentrating on something that's even just a mundane task that should only take about 10 to 15 minutes if you have a hard time concentrating on that, and low motivation. So, not wanting to go out of bed, go to the gym, make food. These are all signs of brain or that brain fog can lead to and chronic inflammation in the body. So, the good news is that these conditions stem from lifestyle habits that we have the power of actually changing. So, by making simple adjustments to our lifestyle, we can work towards enhancing our mind and our bodies. And a few ways that we can take action are adapting a well balanced diet that's rich in essential nutrients, reducing screen time. I know that's a tough one to do, but reducing the screen time, managing our stress effectively, prioritizing our sleep, tracking our exercise intensity and level and duration of our movement. So all lots of ways that we can actually take back control and start to see those symptoms that we talked about change and improve. So, of course, we're going to focus in on one big area, which is nutrition. So, while there's no single food that fights inflammation, um, reduce screen time, yes. It's tough. It's really tough sometimes, especially at night when you want to wind down and you just want to scroll, like doom scroll sometimes, but really focusing on reducing screens as much as possible. I mean, most of us are on them all day at work. So what can we do to reduce those at least throughout the week? That's a good kind of action step to start with is Monday through Friday, what can we do when we're home to reduce screen time? And we can chat a little bit more about some techniques with that and what's worked for other people. But yeah, reducing screen time is a huge one. But so nutrition wise, there's not one single food that fights inflammation. Making sure that we actually build a whole food diet with actually helps lower the risk of inflammation and disease. So we're not just adding in one thing that's going to be our magic pill. We want to look at the big picture. So this means including beneficial inflammatory fighting foods. And here I want to see if you guys can name some of those. So what do you think are some of those inflammatory fighting foods that we can incorporate in our diet? Salmon, nuts, berries. Yeah, those are fantastic options. So salmon, we're thinking fatty fish. So fatty fish, salmon, herring, mackerel, sardines, tuna, bass, anchovies. Those are all really good quality fish to incorporate in our diet. And That's mainly because, oh, we have a new person. Let me add them in really quick. Um, Perfect. So salmon, that's coming from a lot of that omega 3s that we have in there. So you don't have to eat fish if you don't like fish. And whitefish is not the only form of powerful components, but we have those nuts and seeds that we talked about. Walnuts are rich in omega fatty acids as well, and actually are known for their anti-inflammatory benefits. Leafy green vegetables, perfect answer. So adding in those greens, those colors. If you've been to one of our talks about eating the rainbow or eating a variety of colors in our diet, those really help with getting all those antioxidants and all those vitamins and minerals that we need. So, antioxidants, specifically vitamin C, is super, super helpful. So, vitamin C you can find in many fruits, vegetables, red bell peppers, oranges, kiwis, are all excellent sources to help incorporate into your diet to get more vitamin C naturally. Um, Also, probiotic and prebiotic rich foods can help keep a good gut bacteria, which helps balance our inflammation and keep it in check. So, consider adding in some fermented probiotic foods such as yogurt and cottage cheese. These contain live active cultures. And then you can also add prebiotic rich foods like bananas, asparagus to help support that good gut health. Oh, we have a couple other people joining. Wonderful. So when we're thinking about foods, we want to that help fight inflammation. We want to tie it back to some things that we've talked about before. So eating a variety of whole foods, eating a variety of plant-based foods, and then incorporating those omega-3 rich foods as well. So the power of nature. So thinking beyond nutrition now, what can we do to really help balance that inflammation? Nature is such a powerful tool, so remember to use it. So especially right now when it's beautiful outside, daily walks that include sun exposure with UV rays can not only have a great impact on your immune system by adding that vitamin D exposure, um, but research has actually shown that not exposing yourself to sunlight daily can actually increase the risk of musculoskeletal system disorders and various autoimmune diseases stemming from inflammation. Our muscle cells have a vitamin D receptor and relax in the presence of the sun, creating a heart protecting benefit, fighting the most common of heart diseases, um, which can actually like atherosclerosis, which is the hardening of your arteries. So vitamin D and just sun exposure can actually be very anti-inflammatory and cardiovascular protective. While being outside is important, we also want to make sure that you're getting cozied up in your bed and getting adequate rest from sleeping. Because sleep deprivation increases pro inflammatory signaling as well as decreasing your immune system's functions. So the body rewards its system with an energy saving switch when sleeping to allow the immune system to process and return to its baseline. When we're sleep deprived, it's been linked to association of insulin resistance, diabetes, vascular disease due to inflammation markers that are triggered. So, just having 3 consecutive nights of sleep less than 6 hours actually drastically increases your insulin resistance. So that's something to think about when we're looking at other ways. So if you have really been putting effort into your diet and you've really been putting effort into your stress management and other areas, but we're not focusing on sleep and we're still struggling with inflammation and we're struggling with weight loss and we're struggling with um, maybe even like carrying extra water weight or just feeling that brain fog. Look at your sleep too. We have to look at everything to make sure that we're really balancing ourselves out. So, it's important to try to maintain that consistent 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night. And this can be a beneficial reward in decreasing that unwanted inflammation in the body and reducing other chronic diseases. So now tying it into our three core principles. So first, number one is focusing on whole foods first. We should start by choosing whole foods with that are less processed, and less packed. We want to make sure that they're not packed with sodium, extra fat, added sugar. And this is a simple way to start by just reshaping your plate or using the plate method to help incorporate more of those whole foods. You want to focus on a balance of macronutrients. And when we say a balance, we mean um, every meal and snack, we should have some protein, some carbohydrates, some fat. Pairing each meal and snack with these macronutrients will help keep you fuller for longer. And most people will feel their best while fueling their busy day and activities with about 40% of our diet from carbohydrates, about 30% from our fat, and about 30% of our protein. But individual needs vary, so if you're confused on that, make sure to ask one of us at the team at GC Healthy Living so that we can help you with figuring out those numbers for you. And then limiting the number of processed carbs and sugar. The AHA recommends no more than 6 teaspoons, about 24 grams for women and 9 for men, which is about 36 grams. And the average person consumes about 150 pounds of sugar per year. So that's 46 teaspoons a day or 160 grams. So really thinking about that, thinking how you can reduce some of that added sugar. And it's not surprising that sugar is super addictive and feels hidden in almost every food product and package. So make sure you're turning things over, adding in those whole foods, reading the label, making sure you know what you're putting into your body. All right, so I'm going to do a couple frequently asked questions, and then we're going to open up the floor to kind of talk a little bit more about inflammation. So, a lot of people want to know, well, what food causes inflammation? So, it's known that certain foods cause more inflammation than others. So, some people can be more sensitive to like gluten, casein, sunflower, safflower, soy, corn oils, processed foods, fried foods, syrups, soft drinks, sugars. So those are foods that we tend to see a rise in inflammation with. But it is noted that this does not mean that you have to restrict all these. So don't feel like if you tolerate gluten, you don't need to remove it from your diet. That doesn't necessarily mean or isn't what I'm saying is we just want to overall incorporate more whole foods, less processed foods, and be mindful of the things that we're having and how our body reacts to them. So if you're someone who eats gluten and you start to feel brain fog or aches or pains, we might need to cut that out. And then looking at soft drinks, sugars, trying to minimize how much we're consuming those can really, really help decrease your inflammation over time. And then a lot of times I get asked, what are some supplements that can help with inflammation? So, first and foremost, we want to focus on the diet first. So, whole foods first, maximizing what we can do with diet, lifestyle changes. But adding in some supplements can actually really be helpful sometimes. So we're thinking about like omega-3 fatty acids can help with reducing that inflammation and increasing the blood flow in the body. I always recommend though check with your healthcare provider or your professional that you're working with, your health professional that you're working with, to make sure that you're taking the right source, that it's a good quality, and that there's no interactions with any supplements that you want to add in because a lot of people can do their body harm by taking supplements if they're not the right ones for them. And then as we start to open it up, I want to ask you guys all about your biggest takeaway from this. So as we come to an end, let's keep in mind that even just the smallest adjustments in our daily routines can make a big difference in reducing inflammation and boosting our overall health. So today I want to challenge you to take one small step towards becoming your best and healthiest version of yourself. Whether that's opting for foods to fight inflammation, finding ways to handle stress, ensuring a good night's rest, or staying physically active, each choice can contribute to your well-being. So I want to ask you all here, what's one thing that you feel like you are either struggling with right now, and what's something that you feel like you can add into your day to really help promote um, a healthier lifestyle, help reducing inflammation that might be in your body? And remember, we don't have to be perfect with everything. I don't expect you to wake up and hit every single goal that we're trying to attain. It's a long haul. So small, simple steps lead to long-term success. So even if that's starting by just focusing on your sleep regimen, or making sure you kickstart the day with a good quality breakfast. Fantastic ways to just start. So working on uninterrupted quality sleep. Absolutely. And that can be really tricky. So then we have to kind of break that down. What's causing us to not get that um, uninterrupted quality sleep? And then how can we kind of backwards track to kind of improve that? Sugar craving started with strength training again. Yeah, we might be deficient in the intake of carbohydrates that we're doing. So looking at our diet and how we can balance that out to reduce those sugar cravings, because the as we grow muscle, we want glucose. So sometimes that can lead to those sugar cravings if we're not balanced in our diet with either our pre-workout or the meal prior to or even post. We want to look at some of those things and make sure we're getting in enough fiber, complex carbohydrates, that kind of stuff. What are some other areas that we might be struggling with or that we feel that we can improve and add in? I know sleep for me is a big one. Making sure that I get quality sleep and I'm going to bed at a certain time. I always like to make sure I know what time I'm waking up. I'm pretty standard with my wake up time. I usually wake up at 5. So then I kind of backwards plan. So I know what time I want to be in bed by. And then I give myself that time for sleep. So I know I need to be in bed by X amount of time and I want to be asleep by X time. And that helps give me that time to wind down. And then creating that wind down routine. Sometimes it's as simple as getting in bed, reading a book, doing self care, listening to an audiobook or doing something, playing a game, a board game, things like that can help your wind down routine, which can prepare you for sleep. And even sometimes going for a night walk, seeing that sun actually come down can help with natural melatonin production. What questions do you guys have about inflammation? How do you know when you're overtraining? A good way, there's specifics that we can actually go into based on you, but if you're constantly sore, that's a big one. If you're not able to keep up, if your body just feels broken down and it's really hard to kind of get to that next set, we're not seeing progress. Those are some big signs of overtraining. If you just feel like there's your muscles never relax, that's a sign that we need to kind of take a step back. What medical test can tell you how much inflammation you have in your body? I think that one's a little bit tricky because it depends on what state we're in. If you are in like an acute phase where we have a cold or something, there's going to be inflammatory markers that are spiked. And then it depends on kind of what's going on. So I wouldn't necessarily say, oh, go test for this. I think it's let's look at what's going on. Let's figure out what we can do naturally, and then let's have a conversation with our healthcare team to see if there's anything that we do need to check. Do we need to check specific markers um, in our body to see if there's something that we're missing? Is it low iron? Is it ferritin levels? Is it thyroid function that are leading to fatigue? Or is it our A1C and we're not digesting our sugars well? There's a bunch of different things, but that's all kind of individualized. So we want to look at what the root cause is and how we can manage our health to get that. And that's all individualized. What other questions do we have? I know inflammation is a tricky one because a lot of us have it and a lot of us have a hard time with our busy lifestyles with breaking it down. And it's really trying to look back and see where we can kind of take back control and manage some areas, and that's Could be, like I said, one thing at a time. So is it just focusing on nutrition? Is it just focusing on stress? Does age impact inflammation management? It can. Um, if we're not, things get harder. So if we're not looking at how we're functioning, inflammation can definitely add up. And it's really important as we age, as we're getting older, to focus on our health and make sure we're doing these things to be health protective. So it's definitely something that can get trickier, but I don't necessarily want to say age increases inflammation, because if we're doing things, we can really balance it out with our lifestyle factors, our dietary factors, things like that. What other questions do we have? How do you know when you have inflammation? So, a lot of it is going to be those signs that are adding up. So if we're having fatigue that doesn't quite go away, if we're having that brain fog, if we're hitting that midday slump and it's consistent, if we're not recovering from our workouts or our movement, or we just feel very sluggish, these are all signs that we have inflammation. If you feel achy in your joints, if you feel just aches and pains all over, those are some signs that can tell us that we have added inflammation, and we need to take a step back and look at what's causing this, or what in our lifestyle can we change or um, do to potentially improve that. I know a lot of people, it just feels like your norm. I have a lot of clients that I work with that they're like, "Oh, I didn't even realize how tired I actually was." Or how I could actually feel better. Some people are like, "Oh, I've had these aches for years and years and years, and I just thought it was my norm." And that doesn't have to be the answer. It could also be stubborn weight loss. If you're not losing weight, if you're not seeing the changes that you're trying to make, that could be a sign of added inflammation, and we need to look at our diet and we need to look at our lifestyle and see what we can do. See what we can change to kind of feel that impact. And little things make huge differences. I know I have clients all the time that are just focusing on one little thing, and then they're feeling way better because we've reduced a factor, and now their body's starting to thrive. Any thoughts on caffeine from pre-workout drinks? There's a lot of controversy around pre-workout drinks and energy drinks. I always try to go more natural. You really, 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 really want to look at ingredients. And we want to look at what we're actually putting into our body. There's different ingredients in there that have the feel factor, and that can be beneficial for some people. Um, there's actually good research behind certain ingredients, so we want to look at and understand what we're taking. So I encourage you to, whatever you're taking, turn it over. Read those ingredients. If you're struggling with what these are, what you're putting into your body, reach out to myself, reach out to someone on our team. That way we can talk to you about it, because some are okay and some are can be actually really damaging. And make sure you're watching how much caffeine you're taking in, how that can potentially impact our sleep. So there's a couple things that you really want to look into with it. But some people need a little bit of a pick me up. And if we're doing it in a smart and controlled way, and we're doing it with a good quality product, we can definitely utilize them. But supplements, the supplement industry is very tricky to navigate. So there's a couple things that you want to look at for. The biggest thing is if it is third party tested. So if you're buying a supplement that's designed for sports performance, like a pre-workout powder or a protein powder or any vitamin supplement, you want to make sure it's third party tested. That means that the company that owns it has gone through the testing to make sure what's in it is actually in it. A lot of companies don't do that, and you don't necessarily know what you're getting. So it's worth paying the extra money to make sure that you're getting the product that you're getting. And that goes from creatine to different vitamins. Really, really important. The two main ones out there you're going to see are NSF certified and Informed Choice, but there's other third-party tested, and it should be right on the bottle. So if you hold up your bottle, you should see a third-party tested. And if you have any confusion or questions about what you're taking, feel free to send my way and I'll look them over. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, if you guys have questions that you think about later on, feel free to email me or reach out to someone on our team. We'd be happy to answer. But we have these calls every other Tuesday. So please join us for the next one. And I will send out by Thursday a recap of all of our conversation and include some of the things that we chatted about as well. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming. I hope I helped you understand a little bit more about how you can manage some inflammation. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Of course.